Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Manga Mondays, the only manga review show with a newly rekindled interest in Yuri, which is why today we'll be talking about Kindred Spirits on the Roof. This is a manga that is a compilation of two different volumes, which are both tie-ins to a hit Yuri game that I had never heard of when I picked up this volume. I picked it up because after having read Bloom Into You, I was sort of had a renewed interest in Yuri, which is something that I've been a longtime fan of. And I saw this and how big and cool it looked, and I thought, let's give it a shot. It looks pretty adorable. So, Kindred Spirits on the Roof is actually a Yuri visual novel. It is an erotic visual novel, although mostly it's just story-driven and just kind of has sex scenes towards the end of the storylines. That is completely available in the US. Manga Gamer sells it. It's on Steam, and it's got 4 drama CDs. I didn't know any of that, but I found out after reading this. And this is sort of a spin-off tie-in thing, where these stories are totally original, but they feature most of the characters from the game as side characters in the stories. So basically, you've got two different parts, two halves of this. The first one is this quaint little love story about a girl who she has a childhood friend that she has always been very close with, and the childhood friend at the start of the story tells her that she's in love with her, and she runs away. She doesn't know how to deal with these feelings. So most of the story is just about her and these other two girls who are major characters from the visual novel, who are preparing for the school festival, and they're going to be putting on a Romeo and Juliet play. And she's just kind of hanging out with them, finding out that each of them is in a Yuri relationship of their own, and gaining their advice and camaraderie to figure out how to deal with this issue, this rift that's opened up between her and her friend because of the fact that her friend is in love with her. Now, both friends just kind of, they don't want to hurt one another, and that's kind of the problem, that, you know, the one girl's running away because she isn't sure how to deal with these feelings without it damaging their friendship. These two girls, by the way, is who I'm talking about. This girl ran away from this girl's advance. And so, yeah, it's mostly just like a really cutesy little romance story that's focused on the slice of life elements of all these cutie pies hanging out and doing whatever. This girl, by the way, is the main character of the game. Now, the funny thing about this story is that as I was reading it, at first I'm like, okay, this is fine. Like, the characters are just endearing enough that I could get through the story. I mean, it's overall pretty generic. There's nothing about it that really stands out or is super memorable. But as it goes along, I started to get this sense, like, you know, all I knew about the game was that it existed based on the back of the book. And as I'm reading it, I'm getting the sense of, oh, these characters are all from the game. Like, there's a lot of characters who just start showing up, who you'd have no idea why they're relevant or who they are. And they'll just kind of pass through the story randomly. And so, like, obviously this is meant to be, like, fan service. Like, this manga is meant for people who already love the game to read this side story, see some of their favorite characters appear in another context, and watch them help these two girls hook up. Because what the actual story of the game is, and this is never explained in this book. In fact, these two characters who are integral to the game's narrative never actually appear in the book. They're just in the supplementary art. The plot of the game is that it takes place in an all-girls school, and these two girls are ghosts who are haunting the school because each of them was a lesbian who died without ever actually getting to hook up with any girls. They each died at different times. I think one died 70 years ago and the other 30 years ago. But as ghosts, they fell in love. So the two of them are a couple as ghosts. And they think that the reason they can't pass on yet is that they've never been able to go all the way with their relationship. So they try to get this girl to cause other Yuri hookups throughout the school, like to help other girls get with the girls that they have crushes on, and then have sex, and then the ghosts can, like, learn how to have sex, I guess, and eventually pass on. It's a strange story, but the idea of it is to create a quote-unquote Yuritopia. And I think that that phrase is integral, and it's one that I'm going to start using all the time to describe a certain genre of Yuri that I think this falls into, which is there are no men in the universe and every girl in the story is gay, is the genre that I will call Yuritopia. Because it takes place in an all-girls school. It's kind of a given that every girl is going to end up with another girl. You never see a male character or have mention of one ever in this story. They don't exist. It's a Yuritopia. So basically, the course of this first book is just about all these other girls kind of trying to hook up the two main ones. And once you know how the game works, that makes a lot more sense. But again, the story, it's fairly generic. I mean, it's got really cutesy artwork. I do really love the designs. I would say that the art is not incredible. Like, there's not an amazing flow between panels or anything. There's not a whole ton of expressiveness in the faces. They're all good looking, but they're kind of interchangeable. Like, you could go to any page and you're pretty much going to see the same thing. In fact, at the beginning, I kept getting confused. I kept getting characters mixed up because they all look kind of similar, even though they all have really different hairstyles. Like, their personalities were not distinct enough that I could always tell them apart. So sometimes when I was, if I went a whole day between like chapter 1 and chapter 2, I'd come back and then realize that I had confused two characters and had to like reread the first chapter in order to understand it. So, yeah, I mean, it's a cute little story, it's fine, but it's nothing special. Then we get to the second half, which I actually like a lot more. And this one has a different artist with much more expressive art, much more liveliness, much more unique designs, although they still can get a little bit difficult to tell apart because there's a couple of girls with similar hairstyles, and I would sometimes get confused. But nonetheless, this one... it also has a much more interesting storyline, which is that it's about this girl who is at this ceremony where all of the clubs are like going up on stage and giving a small demonstration of what their club is about so that they can try to entice new members. And these two girls from the quiz club get up there, and they're just so close. They're so friendly, as the girl likes to put it, that she decides to join the club so she can watch them, because she just loves watching friendly girls. She's just like a Yuri fan, essentially. So she joins this quiz club in order to watch these two friendly girls, and it just so happens that another girl also joins the quiz club, and it turns out that she's done so for the same reason. So it's basically about these two girls bonding over their mutual love of watching other girls bonding. It's really fun and adorable, and again, has great facial expressions, much better flow. Like, the illustrative art isn't as pretty and cute. Like, you look at these girls and you're like, wow, she's adorable. But you look at these girls and they've just got more personality. They've just got more life to them. They've got more expressions. So, I would say that the artwork in the second half is better in terms of being better manga, even if it doesn't make for as pretty illustrative art as like what you see on the cover and in these little inserts. Like, the full color stuff looks fucking great on these little inside panels and shit. But, the second half has the actual manga quality to it. So yeah, the second one is, again, it's just kind of a small, endearing love story. There's nothing all that, like, deep or meaningful to it, but because the second half has such a unique premise that it's about these girls watching these other girls and then, like, sort of getting involved in their hookup, I think it just worked a lot better, and it's funny and charming, and I really liked the characters. They were definitely more memorable. Like, the girls from the first chapter, the first book... like, the two main ones were pretty generic. The girls surrounding them, who are all from the games, have, like, sparks of intrigue where I was like, okay, I wouldn't mind knowing her story, but it's not told in this. So I did actually buy the game. I'm curious about it. Maybe I'll talk about it in the future if I get around to playing it, or the drama CDs, because, like, I like this world. I like the tone of this story. I like the idea of it. I like the Yuritopia atmosphere and everything. It's just that I don't think that the first story was really, like, memorable. And the second one, well, memorable is not, like, something I'm going to be talking about for years. I don't regret this purchase at all. It's a fine manga, and I'm very glad it's a one thing that I don't have to buy another volume of this, It's just an open and shut case. Now, I will say that why the fuck is this thing so huge? Like, I mean, it's kind of comfortable to have, like the pages like this, and the art looks good, big, so I don't want to complain too hard, but it's just, look at this whole shelf. All these books are like the same height, the same breadth, they all flush nicely on a shelf together, right? But then you've got this, which like is the same size as this one right here, which is sticking out like a centimeter off my shelf, and is taller than everything in the world. This is another Seven Seas Yuri manga, by the way, that I haven't read yet. So, like, for some reason, Seven Seas has started publishing these giant books, and, like, nothing they do is ever standardized. Look at this. You can see here that the two Seven Seas books are shorter than all the other ones on this shelf, all these standard-sized manga that they're next to. For some reason, they're smaller. Then you've got some bullshit like their older stuff, like, look, the Boogie Pop novels, right? They're shorter than the other novels on the shelf. But then they released this one that's just that's fucking... Why? Why? Why would you do this? It doesn't match the rest of the fucking series at all. Seven Seas. Why is there no standardization amongst your releases? I don't understand. Like, there will be... Like these two Yuri ones line up, but then if you were to go get, like, one of their other Yuri series, like Girlfriends or, Strawberry Panic, like, they're not the same size. Those are, like, standard manga sized, like anything else. I just don't get it. What is the fucking standard they're using? Now, I'll also say that, I was worried after Bloom Into You, which, by the way, again, smaller than all the other stuff on the shelf, that one I complained about how it had the constant emphasis, the constant bolded words. And it seems like using emphasis is something they're doing in all their Yuri manga. Like, I've flipped through a bunch of them at the store, and I was really concerned about buying any of them because of it. But it was not nearly as bad in this case. Like, there is emphasis, somewhat frequently, but it was never annoying. It never distracted me. Maybe they just did a better job of which words they emphasized, because Bloom Into You, it was insufferable. But this one was fine. So hopefully that will continue to be true as I read more of their Yuri manga. But anyways, if you are a Yuri fan, if you like the idea of the Yuritopia, this is a fine story. It's cute, it's fun, the second book is really endearing, and maybe play the visual novel if that's your thing. It's like $35 though, so, your mileage may vary on how much that's worth. And that's it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one.